Welcome back to the Shabbos Treasures series. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, and I'm here together with my co-host,
Rabbi Samuel Ross, and we are delighted to be able to share a weekly idea that you can take into your Shabbos and upgrade and beautify immediately. Enjoy. Everything that we're doing when it comes to eating, a couple of examples of from the stem, different bits of cutlery mixed up, are potentially all cases of mixtures. So I want to, again, tonight we're going to look at, 9 different examples, what we didn't look at last week. Using the criteria that we learned last week, we're going to see, hopefully work out together how to deal with those scenarios. But let's do a very quick revision. What is the malacha, the forbidden type of work of sorting? If you had to sum it up, what is anyone, someone, help me.
You can take the good from the bad.
Okay, great. So Bev's a stage ahead or 3 stages ahead. She's already telling us how to do things.
Oh, sorry.
Bev, you're good. Your coffee's working very, very well. I'm a stage behind, maybe 2 stages. When is there a problem? What is the problem, and when does the problem apply? Let me give you a concrete example. If you've got 2 dresses hanging up in your cupboard, Bev, it's probably to choose, one over the other one. So,
I'm trying to remember what you said last week.
So let me tell you what the issue is. It has to be a mixture of 2 types. Right, Hayden? For there to potentially be a problem, you have to have, I know, Jeremy, you weren't with us last week, we discussed a little bit on Friday night, there has to be a mixture of 2 types. So let's go back to the example, 2 dresses hanging up in the cupboard or 2 shirts hanging up. I don't think that's a mixture. You may have a situation of a mixture, of one of these closets, one of these, wardrobes where everything is packed together. You could get to a situation where it could be a mixture.
Or the laundry basket.
Right, the laundry basket is there were a lot of eyes last week. It was like, whoa, the laundry could be a problem. Yeah, the laundry could be a problem. But the real problem is a mixture of 2 types. 2 types of things. Okay. Now that doesn't just mean a raisin and a chocolate, or a sock and a shirt. It could potentially even be 2 different types of pieces of cake. It could be, the grape with its stem. This really could go in so many different types. It could be 2 different types of books that get mixed up together, right? But the problem is a mixture of 2 types. So let's assume that a mixture of 2 types is a problem. We can't be separating on our Shabbos. Now, Bev was already, now we're up to Bev's stage. We said last week there are 3 ways, you have to do all 3 to get yourself a problem, right? So Bev already told us one. One is you take the good from the bad, right? So let's say we've got our raisins with our chocolates. So we want the chocolate. No one wants the raisins. That's what you have when all the chocolate's gone. So you take the chocolate, you take the good. But there were 2 other criteria. Does anyone remember them?
You have to use it quite quickly.
Straight away, relatively speaking, straight away. And someone else. What was the third one? Something to do. And
I don't know what it's called, but you'd drop it on the table and let it all sort of sprinkle out.
So Darren, just a second. You're at the next stage, which is how to always get out of the problem, but you can scramble it and take it out of it being a mixture. That's a different solution. Great. But there are 3 criteria that can get us out of the problem. Number 1, good from bad. Number 2, and number 3, use your hand. Don't use a utensil. Right? So, if you've got the chocolate with the nuts, use your hand. By the way, in theory, a fork could sometimes help. Let's say it's something which is greasy and grimy. So then you're not using the fork to choose something. You're using it because you don't want to get dirty. But the point is, it's, again, all things being equal, if you good from bad, immediate use, and your hand, you're fine. Or you got Darren's solution, which is scramble it, throw the cutlery around the table, throw the clean washing all over the floor, and it's no longer a mixture. And it's not. The only problem is when it's a mixture of 2 types. So now we've removed the mixture of two types. Okay, and just to contrast it from last week, we saw if you've got, your food on a plate, if you've got, your carrots and your chicken, it's not a problem to take the chicken, even if you don't want the carrots, because it's not a mixture. So again, it has to really be things that are a mixture. We discussed like things like seeds and melon. That'll be a problem because you've got two types. Okay, that's what we saw last week. Before we go on, and we're going to look at, hi Nicola. Before we go on, and Gila's got some interesting scenarios for us this evening. Does anybody have any questions on anything that we've just said?
You can unmute yourself if you have any questions. I just muted because there was a background noise that was interfering.
Any questions? Okay, so we're good. A mixture of two types is the problem. Either unscramble it, as Darren said, or take the good from the bad immediately and with your hand, which, by the way, neither of those scenarios will solve all problems. And I think I think a very good example of that, again, we'll see as, Gila's going to go through some questions, we'll see that works in most cases, but not in all cases. So Gila, please.
All right, so let's start with some practical cases. Okay, so let's just say you are having fish or chicken for one of your meals. Can you take the bones out of your fish or chicken?
Oh, that's a really good question. I remember last week we started doing this one. We didn't answer it because it's so hard.
Should we throw it out to the audience and see if anyone?
Can we even unmute people, or they can unmute themselves?
They can unmute themselves. You should be able to unmute yourself.
I think you can, but in a certain way.
All right. So what would that way be?
Probably the opposite way that you do it if you were allowed to do it. So I don't know if maybe you do it with your hands, not with your cutlery, or with the cutlery, not with your hands, or there must be a.
So you're onto something, but you're not 100% correct. So let me explain to you based on our three conditions that we said under which circumstances it would be allowed, right? So the first we said was if you're taking the good from the bad. Now, if you're thinking about it, if you got a piece of fish and you got bones in it, the good is the fish and the bad is the bones. So you wouldn't be allowed to just take the bones out of the fish unless you took some of the fish with the bones, right? So you're taking some of the good together with the fish. There is another way to do it. So that's way number one, is you take a little bit of the good with the fish. Incidentally, I believe this is the reason why the filter fish is so common on Shabbat. Is because,
I thought it's because everybody loves the bland taste, Gila. Everyone loves it. Who wants a nice grilled piece of salmon where you look at some of the looks?
Back in the day, before you had a fillet piece of salmon, right, where you didn't have to worry about it, taking the bones out of the fish was hard on Shabbat, right? So the idea of the filter fish is minced fish. There's no bones. If there are bones, you're certainly not finding them. It's all in it. So but that's the side way. So the first way is you take some of the good, some of the fish together with the bones. And what's the second way, Rabbi Ross?
Just by the way, does anybody remember that we discussed that in passing last week? But that is a way out. Like we discussed about the melon. You take some of the good with the bad, then you're going to be okay. But again, it's not a perfect scenario. Like it's not simple to take the bone out of the fish. So we come up with one solution, which is to cut away some of the salmon with it. Another possible solution is, well, it happens to be that we're very male heavy tonight, which might be a help for the second one, which is while you're actually putting it in your mouth, you could pull the bones out.
I guess if you're eating on your own. All right, question number 2.
Does anyone have any particular questions on the second one? Or you just want to visualize that? Or you just want to forget about what I just said?
I think we're ready to move on to question number 2.
Okay.
Question number 2, can I remove the skin of a chicken? Eating a piece of chicken, can I remove the skin of the chicken?
This is a hard one because we did not learn the principle for this last week. I wanted to push us a little bit.
I remember in recent weeks you were talking about sort of peeling the skin of an orange or something, and Is it the same sort of principle as that? Because the good and bad, I can't quite see how that would work here, because if it's a nice crispy skin, why is that necessarily bad?
So you're actually onto something when you talk about like the good and the bad, because it's not like a fish and bones. It's very clear. One is wanted, one is unwanted.
But let's say, but he's right. But let's say, I remember years ago I asked a big rabbi this question, and he didn't understand the question. He's like, "You shouldn't eat the skin; it's not healthy." But he didn't seem to he didn't seem to understand that for the rest of us, who maybe are not as health conscious and whatever, we're still eating it. But the reality is, it is subjective. But let's say you decide that you want the chicken right now, and you don't want the skin. So it's different to the peeling. The peeling is another inbuilt exemption. The rabbis allowed us. I'm phrasing it wrong. It's not a problem to peel something. If you've got an egg or a fruit, you're allowed to peel it. This doesn't work under the exemption of peeling. It actually is okay, but for a different reason. The reason it's okay is it's considered to be the same type. For whatever reason, I can't even go into now. I had a lot of time on this. In Jewish law, chicken and chicken skin are considered to be the same type. It's not considered to be two types. I'm using this a little bit just to push the point of, to be a mixture, it has to be a mixture of two types. So you would be allowed to remove this, but okay, in any event.
Question number 3. Okay, this is going to confuse you a little bit. Can I trim fat off a piece of meat? Something that I'm going to sit down and eat and enjoy.
That ought to be the same principle as the skin, surely.
Yeah.
Can't you eat around it so you're eating the good and then you leave the fat, because that's the bad bit? So rather than cut it away, you'd eat sort of around it and eat the good bit.
So Bev's right. As in, fat is the bad. It's not considered to be, for whatever reason, skin and chicken, maybe for the reason that Richard was giving, are considered to be the
same type.
Same thing. Whatever the reasons are. But when it comes to fat, you don't want the fat. The fat is the bad. Like there's nothing to talk about. So Bev is giving us a solution. Bev is telling us, cut the good away from the bad. You speak about trimming, the expression of trimming the fat off. You have to trim the meat off. You can't trim the fat off.
All right, question number 4. Can I peel an egg on Shabbat? Do we have a nod? 2 nods? Does anyone want to tell me how I should do it?
But we didn't even do this last week.
With your feet.
Nice guess, but I'm going to say no.
Okay.
It has to be.
Roll it.
Sorry?
You roll it.
So it has to be, there's 2 conditions that have to be met. It has to be done by hand as opposed to a specific utensil. And it also has to be done just before you're going to use it, right? So if let's say you're going to have it lunchtime and you're preparing for lunch, you can peel it there. But if you're going to do the, if you're going to only have the eggs at supper time, you would have to peel it just before supper time or whenever you want to have it.
Right. But the theory is that peeling would work. Next one.
Can I crack a nut?
Separating the good from the bad. You can't eat the shell.
Yes, you can't eat the shell. So basically, it's got the same principle as the egg and the fruits, that you're peeling them to get to it, so it's fine.
Right. Okay. So again, we're really stressing the point that the idea of a peel you can take off. That's not included in the concept of the good and the bad and the mixture. The next one, my favorite, other than pulling out the fish bone and putting it in your mouth, my favorite.
Okay, would you like to ask the question then?
Why you can't handle this one?
I can,
okay,
but I don't want to take your joy away.
So as we I think some of us are aware, we're not supposed to eat insects, right? From a kashrus perspective, we're not supposed to eat insects.
They're not kosher.
They are not kosher. Even if we love the taste of them, they're not kosher. I am about to make I'm not me. You wouldn't want my lettuce, my salad. But one of you are about to make a salad on Shabbos, and you realize you've got good old insect. I didn't give it a name. I don't know its name, crawling around the leaf. What now?
Have something else for lunch?
I'm on a diet. I have to be, not just on a diet. The salad is so good. I just have to have my salad. Who's interested in the steak when I can have the salad? What do I do? The insect, should we give it a name? Or is it too immature? Okay, no name. Is crawling around the piece of lettuce. What are my options?
Don't
You
need
check-
to.
You take the next few pieces of lettuce to check them and then throw those other ones away.
Okay, so I hear that, Maddie. What do you do if this is the one piece of lettuce that you've got? I want to make this crystal clear. And I don't want us to find a wiggle way out because you're good. You're like, okay, we check it. We with the halach.
You're right, Maddie, but you're actually being a bit stricter than you need to be.
Because let me ask
You
Wash
wash
it
it.
then.
what would you do?
What?
Wash it.
So
Excellent.
during the week, that's what you would do. You'd rinse it, right? And rinse the
Why
the
can't
insect on.
but why can't we do that on Shabbos?
On Shabbos, Ben, were you going to say something?
I said wash it as well.
Oh, right. So
Put,
on
put
Shabbos,
it in the Shabbos dishwasher.
Let's hear some guesses.
That-
Why?
I'll clean it.
be goodbye to your lettuce.
Why?
Is it because it's killing a creature? You can't like do something.
It could be you can't kill a creature, but why? Even if you don't kill it, what could be the problem with washing it?
Oh, because you might make it go soggy or the texture.
Yeah, it absorbs the water.
Nope.
You don't get everything off.
Even if you get it off.
You're cleaning it, so therefore, and you're not allowed to clean on Shabbos.
Right. So why wouldn't you be allowed to clean it under this?
Because you're taking the bad out to the good.
There you go.
Excellent.
You're taking the bad from the good.
We've given you yet another crazy scenario tonight of taking the bad from the good. You start washing off Mr. Insect, you've taken the bad from the good. So what do we do?
But what if you tear some of the lettuce off with it?
Then you're fine. You've got it. Well done, Hayden. So Hayden's solution at what he told us is that it's the same principle as the fish, right? You would take some of the good together with the bad. So you would tear off a little piece of the lettuce where the insect's on, and then you can use the rest of the lettuce. And it's the same kind of principle that Maddie spoke about. It's just that you don't have to discard the whole leaf. You just have to discard that part of the leaf which has the insect on it. Okay. Now, this is a scenario that comes up sometimes in hotels or when you're serving in the kitchen. We know that there are some people that love serving in the kitchen. So if you are using a slotted spoon, can I use a slotted spoon to remind, you know what a slotted spoon is, right? It's those spoons which have those lines or those holes in it that sort of collects the solid and the liquids drains through.
Is everyone familiar with them?
No, because it's like sieving.
So before I even ask the question, you're telling me no, right?
But I was thinking, as we were saying the question, this could, in theory, the same question could, in theory, apply to a fork as well. It could, in theory, apply to a fork for the same reason.
Why? A fork works differently because a fork takes the good from the bad.
No, but let's say you put your fork into a giant thing of chullent. It won't.
I think it works differently because it takes the food.
Okay, I'll let you carry on being in the kitchen.
No, I think it. We need like some scientific minds here because I think what a fork does is it gives you the food that you want, versus whereas the slotted spoon, the way it does it is try both out in the kitchen, but it takes the food, but it drains the stuff that you don't want through those holes.
Depends how you use the fork.
I think the fork's doing the same thing. I could be
Cradling it in the fork.
I have to go and double check
Sorry?
this, guys.
Is the distinction between if you're cradling it in the fork, then it's the same as a slotted spoon, whereas if you're spearing it with a fork, then you are taking it out in that way.
Right. Again, even I mean,
I'm gonna to be researched.
I guess it depends what you're cradling, because if you're doing it with a fork, I guess there are theories where you could use a fork in a way that drains the liquid from the.
Okay. let's assume we're dealing with, let's go back to our case.
Okay, so let's use the slotted spoon, because that I think also is a utensil that's designed, right, to separate the solid from the liquid, right? That's what the point of it is to take it out. So can I use it for salad or chullent or something like that?
Darren's a bit nervous.
Now I'm deliberating with it.
Oh, okay.
So what are the arguments that maybe we could?
No, because you're separating the solid from the liquid.
Yeah.
So under what circumstances could you potentially use it?
Because what?
Are there any circumstances that maybe you could use it?
If you're using the slotted spoon to take out, I've never seen anybody eat from a slotted spoon, but
yeah.
And usually the stuff that people take out, spoon out with the slotted spoon, they throw down the tweenie or the waste disposal unit or whatever they're called. So if you were going to use it, to eat it, then technically because you're eating it, you think it's good. So if you're using it for that purpose, then that's okay.
So sorry, Joe, just to clarify.
Jeremy's telling us about different scenarios. Is if, let's say, like, for example, let's say you're making a bowl of chicken soup, right? And you use a slotted spoon in order to take out the vegetables that you don't want. So 100% that would not be okay, right?
Yeah.
Because you're taking out the bits that you don't want from it. I'm going to give you a different scenario of how to use it.
Can you use it on, like, say a salad or something where it's already a solid food, so it's not going to fall through the gap?
Let's just say you're using, you have a salad which has a bit too much dressing in it, or you have a salad that's a chullent which is a bit too liquidy, and you're using you want the solid food, you want the salad, you want the chullent, but you don't really want the liquid. Could you use it then?
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's not bad, it's all the same.
You're taking the good from the bad.
I think the opposite.
So I think that is the distinction, right? If the liquid is unwanted, right, then even though it may not be objectively bad, it's bad for you, right? You don't want it, it's undesirable to you, therefore you can't use it, right? So if you feel like the chullent is too liquidy and you want to get a bowl of chullent, which is just, the potatoes and the barley and the thing, and you want as little liquid as possible, you would not be able to use it, right? Because you're using it in order to drain the undesired liquid. You're using it to separate out the good from the bad with a utensil that's specifically designed to separate, right? That's the part here that I think is the important part. But if you don't want the liquid drained, right, then you can do it, right? If you don't want it, if that's the only spoon you happen to have in the house and you specifically want the liquid, then you can.
What about if you take, is that like the good taking the good from the bad situation? What if you drained it but left some of the solid chullent, if you removed some of that as well?
So sorry, again, just to clarify, I think what she was saying is she's not getting into good from bad. I think she's getting into good and good.
Okay.
It is good from bad. It's not objective good from bad. It's what I want and what I don't want.
So just say, for example, you had meatballs and rice. So you served your rice and then you took your meatballs out with your slotted spoon, but then wanted some of the gravy from the meatballs. You couldn't do that because you've already taken...
That's a great example, right? So let's say you have your rice and then you want just the meatballs but no sauce.
Yeah.
Would not be able to use a slotted spoon to take the meatballs out. If you want more sauce, then you can use it, right? Because then you're not using it to separate, you're just using it to think. But if you're using the slotted spoon to scoop the meatballs out of the sauce, that's something that you can't do. And I think that's really the best example of it is like when you're using it you want just the meatballs, no sauce, then you wouldn't be able to use the slotted.
Can I ask a quick question? Is this all to do with preparation? So are you allowed to sort of separate as such and then eat straight away? Is there a division with that?
The challenge with this one is, the reason why it's problematic is because one of the three conditions was to do it by hand and not by using a specialized utensil, right? And a slotted spoon is a specialized utensil, right? Like it's the reason, I don't know who designed it, and I don't know the engineering behind it, but you when you're reaching for the slotted spoon versus the regular spoon, it's because you want to separate, right? So that's the challenge with this specific scenario.
Okay, so what if you used a fork?
That's okay. Yeah.
I think a fork would be fine. To take a fork, then you're taking a fork is considered like your hand because it's not a utensil designed for it.
Okay.
But you're just taking the meatball that you want
into a different bowl.
So that would be fine. That would be which is a great example. What Maddie and Hayden have just showed us here is how there are acceptable ways to do it. The same thing, right? You want your meatball out of the sauce. There is a way to do it on Shabbat, and there's a way that to not do it on Shabbat. So if you want to do it according to Jewish law, then you take the fork and you take it out that way.
Let's jump to question 9, maybe, just because we're almost at 9:30.
Okay. Happens at the kids are finished playing a game, let's say it's called perpetual commotion or whatever it is, where and what you want to do is you want to organize it back into the colors, right? So whatever, think about any game that has lots of different colors or cars of different color. Can you do that?
After Shabbos.
No.
After Shabbos, exactly. After Shabbos, you get
not allowed to organize.
Yeah, you get the kids and you do it thing.
What about if you walk into even a shul and there's all sorts of different books piled up all over the place, different sizes, they're not recognizable. You want to put them back on the shelf. You want to tidy the room up.
If they're going to be used for Shabbos, then yes. If not, no.
Yeah. Well, so Maddie, there's two things. One is in terms of preparing for after Shabbos. But let's say even if they're going to be used on Shabbos, but there could be another problem of Bora, of sorting, because I've got two different types. I've got my little blue book, a big red book.
Or if you're putting, let's say, the Sidurim back where the Siddurs go and the Chumashim, where the Chumash goes, and the books of Jewish thoughts, and the parents all in their own areas.
Again, we've got two issues. One is you're preparing, but let's say preparing isn't an issue because we're going to use it. But what about the sorting issue? How can I sort the books?
Spread them out.
Okay, so one solution is to spread out, because basically Maddie is right that it is a problem of a mixture of types. So either you spread them out. They actually give another very interesting solution. They say they're about to pick up each book and put it away, you read a teeny bit from it. That way you're using it right now. Right? So remember, the principle is as long as you read it right now. Maybe we'll do a final question. We did look at this last week, but
if you just picked up the chumashes and put them away, then
sorry,
they're all
lost you, Andrew.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying.
I'll come back when he's ready.
I think we're frozen.
Oh, if they just put up the chumashim, if they just picked up one type of,
they say we're frozen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just trying to say is if someone just picked up the Sidurim, for example, they were all the same type, then could you do that?
Very good question. So not only would that be okay, but even if let's say you had two types of Sidurim, one was Ashkenaz and one was Sfarad, and it was easy to recognize, that wouldn't be a problem. The problem is once they're not so easy to recognize and they're sort of all together. A very good point, Andrew. Hi, Stephen. Nice to see you.
Okay, we are running on time.
Final question for tonight.
Can I set the table on Shabbat?
Ideally, you lay it before Shabbat.
So either do it before or
before you're going to use it.
Right, just before or this one we didn't do last week.
But let's just say what the problem is, right? What's the problem with setting the table? Anyone knows what the problem is?
Preparation.
Not really, because
you're sorting.
What are you sorting? Sorting the cutlery. Thank you. You're sorting the cutlery from one another, right? If the cutlery is scrambled. If your cutlery is not scrambled, then it's obviously.
So you've got to do the good from the bad straight away and with your hand. So to finish in one final piece. If let's say it's 8 o'clock in the morning, but it'll give you pleasure to have the table laid and it looks beautiful, so that will be considered to be immediate use. So I'm adding in one extra wrinkle of what immediate can be. As much as it's subjective, if you don't care less, you're not going to go in the room, then that's not called immediate. But if you want to be in the room because you like it, then that's called immediate as well. Okay, again, we've seen the problem potentially is the mixture of two types, and we've seen how to deal with it. Either you scramble it, you peel it in many occasions, or you take the good from the bad immediately and with your hand. Now the topic, please God, next week. Have a wonderful Shabbos, everyone.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. You can get in touch with me. You can find me on Instagram. It's Gila Ross. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Thank you and have a wonderful day.